no lift for you. No lift for you today. I got to get back on my normal schedule. So this will be a little interim video. But I guess I'll just kind of drag you along with me for a little while. So headed to cardio now. 30 minutes. Seated bike, not the most crazy thing in the world. Frankly, I think its difficulty is overhyped, right? And I can't stand for it, right? It's just not freaking cool. Right? It's not the hardest thing in the world, and frankly, we get the gist. Honestly, my stance on cardio is such that I think we already both know it inside and out. But while I'm sitting on the bike, I'll make a little post, see if I can draw up some solid ass Q&A questions, and then after cardio, we can pop a squat right back in here and see what you guys have to say. Getting it straight from the freaking lifter's mouth here. So I guess I'll see you in a second for question 1. All right, we're back. Some time has passed. I was really getting in the zone on the bike. Ended up doing 36 minutes instead of 30. Just as a little extra touch. Because if you weren't aware, my method is cover the timer with either cardboard something. This gym has some clipboards sitting right on the front desk of the gym section, so I usually just take one of those and put them over top, hiding the time, hiding the calories burned. Because if you're sitting there watching it tick up, it's gonna feel slow, and if it feels slow, then you're gonna feel like it's taking a long time. Whereas if you kind of distract yourself with your phone or watch a show or just whatever, when it's like mowing your lawn, it's kind of a good time to just think. The time will just pass. Right? So it's kind of a situation of almost just being concerned with just doing what you're doing and not doing it like, oh man, 20 minutes left. Pedal for 30 seconds. How much longer? How much longer? Right? Not cool. But either way, I think we've got a couple quick ones. So I posted this with basically the asterisk of only answering the first couple. So I've already glanced, but we'll just scan through these together. Usually I screenshot some good ones, but I think it'll be funnier, maybe not funnier, but just a little more natural to just read it for the first time while we're walking through. Sirloin 3583 asks, who wins in a Turkish oil wrestling match? You or Jay Cutler? Who's to say? Who's to say, really, right? Similar sizes, I would imagine similar level of untrainedness, right? We've never heard any Jay, scuffle stories or anything else like that. I'm younger, probably might have the younger guy advantage, be a little more spry. So I'd say it's anyone's game there. You add the oil context, you never know. 100 men, 1 gorilla. I feel like I answered this a little bit ago. I kind of brought it up. I'd say 100 could do it, but there would be casualties. I don't know. It's hard to say how many, though. 100 of anything. I mean, if you saw 100 cats coming at you, do you think 100 cats could take one regular dude? Easy, right? 5 dogs can take one guy out if they're, 40 or 50 pounds or so. So I'd say the mob strength of 100 plus this noggin. Yeah, that's pretty easy, I think. The more I've thought about it, the less thought I think it needs. Right? 100 men all the way. Hardest part about building your physique, it's got to be the eating, right? Frankly, not in the beginning, right? There's about 3 phases to bulking up, which you go through, right? Honeymoon phase, stable phase, difficult phase, for the most part. If you're continually, steadily gaining weight, right, and you're really pushing it. If you're just doing like a minor surplus, nothing crazy, then, you're going to see steady results, but maybe not so steep as you might want. So that's, but it's each their own. But for me, the first month and a half, 2 months, I mean, honestly, probably even getting into 2.5, steady. I just came off of a 6-month diet. I'm hungry. Right? I've sort of built up a tolerance, or I guess you could say an intolerance to hunger, where it's like I gotta freaking eat. And then for probably about another 2 months or so, there's just gonna be a phase of like, all right, I'm eating, but it's not too hard, but I'm definitely putting effort into it. And then there's going to be a 2-month phase at the end, or however long, until I just can't keep gaining weight because I can't eat any more food, where it's like, dude, this isn't going to happen anymore. It's time to cut it, right? If you go back and look through any of the, like, you know, the bulk finales, I think I probably recorded 2 or 3 of those by now. It's usually not like, okay, this bulk was perfectly timed to end today. It's usually I come to the gym, I've been looking at my weight progress the last few weeks, my actual like ability to continue pushing food, and I just get to a realization point where it's like, all right, this thing's over. We're done. We did it. We got as far as we could go. All right, time to come back to base camp, get back to regular, give myself a break from this whole, you know, just freaking having a big ass belly full of food kind of approach. So once I'm not there yet. Honestly, I'm still teetering on the end of phase 1, maybe getting into phase 2 in just a little bit, or maybe I'm already in it. You know, I'm not totally sure. But eventually it'll get to the point where difficulty will ensue, and that's hard, right? So really keep pushing food. I mean, it's so easy to just push your plate away and then say, we're done, right? Until the gels just, right? And then you're pushing your meals later into the night. You're going to sleep. You're saying you were going to eat 5,000, really only got 3.5. That's where the bulk kind of breaks down. But if you've made significant progress before you get to that point, then you're good, right? You basically just bulk till failure, and then it's time to diet down and repeat. Now, when I say bulk till failure, I do not mean gain 40 pounds of body fat in 6 months. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying bulk reasonably. Don't get too soft, but you will gain some body fat. Just make sure you can manage it later. Otherwise, you're giving yourself this roundabout new problem where you thought you were small before, or maybe not you thought you were small, but you wanted to get bigger, but now you've got a huge chore of, crap, now I'm going to lose all this body fat. All right, so if you don't have to get softer to any degree that you can't handle later, right, don't. Right? Keep that within reason, because, I mean, honestly, you probably don't want to float any higher than the 20% body fat range. That's probably pushing it in terms of effectiveness-wise. Right? We're not sumo wrestlers here. We don't really get that strength advantage. Unless you're a linebacker. Different situation. But that's, yeah, probably the food. The training's the fun part. Sirloin. Man, you just asked that question. I'm going to answer that again. Can you shout out AMOL? Thanks. There it is. There it freaking is. It's your boy Ilias 2939. What's the best chest workout to increase bench strength? Right, and that's one thing that kind of confuses me a little bit, because in the conjecture of lifting, I would say the lift is come to the gym to work out, hitting chest, and leaving. That's the lift. If someone asks me, what's my lift today? That's what I'm going to say. Or what am I working out today? Those are kind of hand in hand. And then individually, under the umbrella of the workout or the lift, is different movements, right? Like when I go on the incline bench, I'm not saying I'm doing an incline bench workout. You know, I would say I'm just doing an incline bench in the workout, right? So I think the fact that we say such different things about different, like, it kind of just confuses me sometimes when I see these kind of referenced. But if I wanted to increase my bench strength, I would train a little more powerlifter-ish early in the workout. I think this is reasonably agreed upon. And then save my more just regular hypertrophy bodybuilder, just normal sets for afterward. If I wanted to build my bench, I might start, warm up, of course. Don't fatigue myself because I really want to push it, but warm up so I'm comfortable with the weight I'm going to move. And then pick a weight heavy enough on a compound lift, be it, barbell bench, maybe throw a Smith in every now and again. But probably those two. You're asking for trouble if you start doing 5 rep sets of dumbbell bench. That's probably within the range of like a little bit too heavy for such random kind of free weights. But have somebody spot you, really get yourself amped up. Maybe do 2 or 3 sets of like lower reps, probably not below 4, but not above 6 either, and really just kind of sitting there for a while. All right, because if real failure at like 6 or so, I think you definitely are giving yourself enough stimulus to make a strength adaptation, right? But it's almost more so like, as long as you're really pushing it with like heavy sets, even up to like 12 reps, and that's real failure, and you go home and recover, you should be stronger afterward, you know. So I wouldn't stress it too much, but I do think that if you really need something, like you're like, dude, 225 is not moving, I need it, I need whatever, I'd say maybe do some lower rep sets, not below 5 to failure in the beginning of chest, and then afterward doing your regular stuff, flies, machine press, things like that. I think that's a reasonably solid approach. That's what I used to do when I wanted to build my bench, right? Because I mean, there was a while when I was doing 1 rep maxes, or like just occasionally testing it. Not anymore, but there was a time for that. So I think that's probably one of the best bets. Do you enjoy Clash of Clans? Seems like a lot of work. Seems like you're really sitting there on your phone, just, you know, making your, I don't know. I mean, some of these guys have been playing it for years. And if you need a game, obviously, I'm not going to tell you not to, but I think it's just not for me. Clash Royale is a little better. It's only a dang, 1 minute dedication of time before I can shut it down and just leave it for as long as I want. A little more kind of quick dopamine kind of reaction for me, at least. Benoit C96, what would you recommend for a firefighter to base their training program around? Now, that's interesting, right? You got an interesting situation there. You're not always living at home. Half the time I guess you wouldn't say on base, but you're at the firehouse. So, how long do you live there, right? I mean, is it like you got a 4-day-a-week thing where you're in the house and then you move back to your regular house, like with your family and everything? Assuming it's something like that, maybe save your more stringent, hard lifts that you don't want any pauses from for when you're off duty, right? It's going to be tricky you can throw dumbbells down mid-arm workout and say, I got to shut this fire down, let's roll. Honestly, you'll probably look cooler because then you're going to be holding the fire hose with an arm pump. And now that I think about it, you should just do arms on days that you think some shit's going to go down. But in terms of actually like wrapping your routine around it, maybe have smaller, quicker body part lifts, less, what's the word? Kind of just overall impactful on your fatigue, so you can drop them at a moment's notice and get to work, right? Whenever that may happen. And then save bigger things like, maybe your heavier days, or definitely legs for sure if you're going to be hitting legs on, your free time. And I think just try to balance it out like that. But honestly, I mean, you're a little more concerned with just overall baseline strength and agility, right? Just kind of stay loose and active, But I think that would be probably a good split. Because if you're like, I mean, you got to think about this too. Honestly, you're probably asking for liability. Let's say you're mid-legs, you get called in. This is like a joke hypothetical. This probably wouldn't happen. You guys know what you're doing. But imagine, somebody just hit legs insanely hard, and then they get called out to something, and somehow they can't perform some kind of something, right? I mean, you just ask for trouble. Right? Don't forget that's kind of your top priority. Maybe you save more of the at least real serious lifts for when that can be your kind of number one activity. But yeah, that's something to think about. But you guys have gyms there, right? Like you've got, I guess any firefighter viewers would know. Do you have what's your gym look like? Maybe post on Instagram, Firefighter Sam Sulik gym, if I can remember, and because I see all those tags, and if it's something like that, nobody would have used that hashtag before. So if you post that, I will see it. I better write that down. If anybody does it, or I guess if any of you just want to troll me and say something, yeah, Firefighter. I don't know how to spell this right. And gym done. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of a long one. If yeah, you see what I'm saying? Right there. Yeah, I'll scan for that later and see if there's any firehouse gyms. But yeah, something like that. How much do I weigh? Currently in the kind of mid 260s or so. It kind of bounces around, be it a heavy day or a lighter day. Especially after that last expo this weekend, I feel like I was up at 265, then I came down 260. Right? I mean, just carbs and water, but still. So I'm kind of bringing that back up So I didn't weigh myself this morning. Probably walked in at like maybe 263, something like that. I'm not necessarily so concerned with the weight now. I mean, getting to like 240 and 250, it used to be like, oh man, once I hit 250, it's gonna be so. Once I hit 240, once I hit whatever. But now it's like, good off season, make gains, and then move on. Right? Not a big deal. But of course, it's always. I mean, you feel like a total freak when you step on the scale, empty stomach in the morning, at 270. Right? It's just freaking nuts. Let's see what we're looking at here. When am I coming to Tampa so we can get a workout in? Asks Sebastian Salazar. I feel like I've answered one of his questions before. Maybe, but I think so. Eventually. It's been a while since I've been to a beach. Do a little beach week. Like bring Mark and everything, go like play volleyball or whatever. That'd be fun. Definitely want to go fishing again. I was in Connecticut. Oh no, it was Rhode Island. And we did like some kind of barely intracoastal kind of like we were in some kind of canal or something. I forget the name of it, but that was pretty cool. There's like a bunch of dogfish, flounder. I don't know how deep the water was, but that was we were just kind of dragging along. Yeah, that was fun. There was this like real kind of expensive looking sail ship around us, and it was like it must have been like a scientific sort of whatever, because there's like 15 guys on it. They send 2 of them off in like this little miniature raft with a little motor, and they kept going back and forth, and they were holding like this like underwater freaking device. I don't really know what the deal was with it. And like we were, the guy who was chartering our little like fishing boat, he was looking at us with binoculars. We had no freaking idea what the hell that thing was. Probably just some kind of scope. I don't know, whatever. Everybody's studying the weirdest things. Scientific studies aren't only limited to hypertrophy. I mean, some of these guys are just talking like, what's the salinity of, blank after, over the course of years. You never know. There's a million crazy freaking studies going on at about all times of the freaking world. But yeah, we'll make it down there. Or yeah, that'll be cool. Gritty? Question mark with 2 likes. Asked Joe Mama 6347. No, probably no gritty here. This isn't the time of emoting. But what's the worst of 2 evils on a cut? Staying in a deficit but not hitting your protein goals, or overeating your protein? And that's where I would probably tell you, at least the way that I think about it. Like, it's not exactly what happens. If you go totally keto and you're only eating pure protein, then eventually you're going to convert that protein into carbohydrates, right? AKA gluconeogenesis, if you know what I'm talking about. You're going to throw yourself out of ketosis. Well, I guess that would be you need more body fat, or you need more fat intake. But what am I even trying to say here? But yeah, so if you overeat carb-wise, dieting down, even though you ate the same amount of calories, I do think you're going to notice a pretty substantial change, right? And I know this kind of goes against what I usually say, because it's like calories in, calories out. There is no difference. It's all about that energy thermodynamics. But there is a massive difference in just your overall kind of fullness, given if you eat 200 grams of carbs and 200 grams of protein versus 400 grams of carbs and no protein, right? Because now you're just filling your freaking system. You're stressing out your not stressing, but stimulating your insulin response. So I would say going over calorie wise, but then not hitting your protein is going to be a worse bet, right? I'd rather overeat protein and keep my carbs and fats the same, just because I know it's not going to hit me weight-wise, right? And that's not the most scientific thing to say, but just in my experience, if I eat an extra 100 grams of protein a day on like an off day, I'm not saying consistently, but like on one off day, but the carbs and fats are the same, I don't wake up any heavier, right? I'm still just about right there. Whereas if I overeat carb-wise or fats, that's when my weight instantly kind of spikes up. So that's where I feel like I'm kind of filling up my temporary storage of glycogen and everything else with those. I almost kind of lean towards describing them as like energy-based macros. So obviously hit the macros you're aiming for, be it the ones a coach gave you or just the ones that you like looked up a maintenance calorie calculator and you're trying to figure out for yourself. But yeah, overdoing the protein, I think you're cool. But if you start overeating carbs, dude, before you know it, you're not gonna be losing much freaking weight at all. But that's more on like just a one-off day. Right? I mean, that guy was eating 1,800 calories of Twinkies. He still got lighter, right? But that is absolutely not the approach that you should really kind of compare to. You know, fun facts for you, underscore. I've totally answered this guy's question before. How do I control my cravings to lose weight? And then how do I control mine? So I guess a tip and then what I do. Well, I do like having some calorie smart options around, because if you've got no sweets at all, your house is a freaking temple. Ground beef, oatmeal, white rice, no sauces at all, no nothing, like turkey, that's all you're eating. You're torturing yourself. If you can handle it, badass. But I just don't think there's no point. You don't get anything from doing that, right? And maybe you think otherwise, but that's where I like to employ the calorie smart options of things, right? Sugar-free barbecue sauce, all sorts of any kind of sweetener or anything, as long as it doesn't mess with you. And some, not a lot, of like the sort of protein-based snacks, right? Be like those kind of, like all the low-carb, keto, whatever, protein bars, like protein cookies and things, right? I think that's a good substitute to a very small degree of moderation. Because if you had a guy eat like 10, what are they called? 10, oh man, my whole pantry was full of them a few months ago. If you had a guy eat 10 Quest bars as his macros instead of regular ass meals, that's not going to be the same situation. And not only that, energy wise, but his gut is going to be wrecked, because all of that allulose and like just all sorts of weird like lower calorie sweeteners and things, at least when it comes to like physical food, like things like an aspartame or like a sucralose, that's not going to really mess with your ability to move food around, like actually digest and make you feel bloated or anything. If it does, it doesn't for me. But with all those like allulose specifically, like the xylitol, it's like sugar alcohol. It's like straight out of a lab. This isn't something you just come across in regular eating in the wild. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend more than one of those a day. Honestly, one a day is even kind of wild. One every so often, right? Lean more towards the regular actual meals. But having those like lower calorie sweet options, or like a sugar-free maple syrup, if you're kind of hungry for something, maybe just have a bowl of like Greek yogurt, frozen blueberries, some sugar-free syrup on top, leave it in the freezer for a second, let it kind of thicken up a little. Like things like that, just to kind of curb that sweet tooth before it starts to grow and then become a situation where it's like, oh, I gotta do it. You pull right into a McDonald's drive-thru, or a Wendy's drive-thru, 2 large Frosties, give me everything. I'm done with this diet. I'm sick of it. Right? You backslid. So you want to be in a situation where you're getting, at least if you're like me and you still definitely have a bit of a sweet tooth dieting-wise, where you get a little bit of something kind of as a treat-ish, and the rest of your meals are just regular, filling, low-density meals, right? Be it like, mixing your ground beef with a bunch of chopped lettuce, or, any sort of thing like that. That's going to be your ticket. Just because that's something you can keep doing a lot. But when it comes down to like just a basic, like, all right, man, I want something sweet. I don't want this sugar-free bull crap. I want the real deal. Give me a pack of Reese's Cups. When it comes to stuff like that, how long have you been locked in for? Because there is a usefulness of a refeed, right? So, you can get away with it every so often. But more so, just remember what you're doing it for. If you want to get leaner, and you want to actually change your freaking body fat composition, then cheating on your diet, dude, straight cheating on yourself, not cool, right? So it's like, I can almost guarantee instantly, if you got at least any interest in really making a change dieting wise, as soon as you break away and you start slamming treats and overeating and everything else, I've been there. I've had some crazy ass cheat days. At the end of it, you're like, oh, not worth it at all. Now, of course, it was really worth it in the beginning. That's why you did it in the first place. But afterwards, you're like, man, not going to do that shit again. Oof. So just try to stay on the good side, right? Keeping the lines, and before you know it, whoa, never seen this vein before. Right? And then I think you'll be on a little bit of a better track. Oh my God, another 3 gorilla questions. Sorry, we're not going to get into those. But let's keep scrolling here. What about the bike machine makes it your preferred cardio workout? Right? I'll tell you this, probably one factor in particular right here. Right? From hips up, this is exactly what I do cardio-wise. Just get to sit right here, play on my phone, look around, see what everybody's doing. The only movement is hips below, right? Pedaling. So it just makes the time pass a little more. I'm a damn phone addict. So if I want to pass the time doing something kind of mindless, then yeah, phone's perfect. Right? Now if you're more of a movie guy or you like just listen to music, zone out, treadmill, Stairmaster, that could be sweet. But with those, your torso's kind of wobbling as you're walking. So I kind of want to just sit and zone out and forget the fact that I'm pedaling and just think about, whatever I'm looking at. Right? Or keep up with all the, with like the natty verse on TikTok and see what everybody's talking about and, just all sorts of shit like that. Right? So that's why that's my favorite. But there's a few others. Like there's almost one where it's like an elliptical and a seated bike had a baby, where it's like a seat and a setup like a seated bike, but instead of pedaling in a rotation, it's more so you're just kind of going back and forth like this, like actually just sort of pushing these pads instead of spinning pedals, So that's one that I still like as well. What do I have planned for the future? Asked Zamir LP. I tell you what, nothing specific, but I can guarantee what I have planned for later tonight. That's going to be a back... Now, is it a back day? I haven't done forearms for a little while. My chest is kind of sore. I don't know. I'll decide. Because if I'm fresh, I want to do back, a big muscle. But if I think I might get off or get better, be due for just a little bit of time to have a lighter lift and make tomorrow's lift a wilder back day, then maybe I should just do forearms. So I guess I don't even have the lift exactly planned. I'm just going to have to decide that later. But I know macro-wise, I'm definitely going to get my meals in. I think we'll get just a couple more here. Big 861, would you rather eat only steak forever or chicken? Gotta lean steak, man. And honestly, that's no question. Frankly, the chicken's a little, a little dry, I'm not saying all the time, but the steak's just a little fancier. And with chicken, you've got no back and forth. Like, unless you're talking breading and seasonings and everything else, at least with a steak, you can change nothing about the cooking process and either have like a fatty ribeye or like something like a top round where it's, lean as freaking can be. Right? Better ass sear, better macros, right? Probably more lipids and vitamins, right? Because your body, the body fat, well, I guess the cow's body fat is going to store a lot of stuff there, nutrient-wise. The regular, just plain protein cut might be a little more sparse, not by a lot, but a degree. But yeah, I think steak's the way to go. If that's kind of a no-brainer for me, at least. But if I was the kind of guy who likes to say like diced year-round, then I might say chicken, because that'd be my freaking prerogative, right? Stay freaking lean. Not prerogative, but well, whatever. I don't know the word I'm trying to think of there. Unknown EZ2TV asks, meow 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 meow. I don't like getting into personal stuff like that, so I think we're not going to answer that. But that's actually, I might cut that out. I don't want to say that, man. That's not cool. Yeah, we don't want to go. We don't go there. All right, so let's not do that again. I didn't expect such a deep question like that. All right, let's move on. Let's pick another one. There we go. This will be a good finisher. Matthias BJ2RB, whatever the hell that stands for. What's usually your first meal of the day? And with that, we can kind of walk off. And Frank, geez, I was just talking to somebody who said I was talking like Trump, and I just realized that I keep saying frankly at the beginning of every sentence. Maybe I'll phase that out. But first meal of the day depends. It abso-freaking-lutely depends. So I guess we'll get into both. So right now, bulking up, What's my first meal? Rice. Well, actually, no, not. Dude, I gotta take this thing to the shop. That is a creaking sound that I'm not a massive fan of. But yeah, first meal of the day, off season. Yeah, typically we're looking at. Well, I did the ground beef and rice yesterday, but usually bowl of about either. Well, sometimes I go back and forth. Sometimes I might do 6 full eggs with the remaining yolks, or no, with the remaining whites, so that it adds up to about 50 grams of protein. Or sometimes I'll just do 8 whole eggs, not deal with splitting the yolks back and forth, because then that adds up to 48 grams. So that's usually the protein side of things, partnered with at least 100 grams of some sort of carb, be it oatmeal, be it just plain rice that I had left over, or just hadn't made right then. Potatoes. I got to start doing cream of wheat. I love the cream of wheat, and that's usually about it, right? Sometimes 150. Honestly, I'll even go up a little higher to, well, yeah, I guess 150 grams of carbs to start, because I mean, meal one, you want to set the precedent for the rest of today that you're going to be chowing down. So if you have a scrappy first meal, you had a scrappy breakfast, and then you're not going to eat again until like noon or later, depending on what your day looks like, then you're playing catch up if you want to eat a lot of food, right? Because let's think about this. If I wanted if somebody told me I had to move, I don't know, let's say 10 big ass boulders, Demon Slayer style, across whatever distance, right? And I had to do that repeatedly. What do you think is going to be easier? Running them, basically chilling all day, and then trying to push all 10 at like the last minute at night, or maybe doing 2 to start, take a break, do 1 more, take a break, do 1 more, take a break in between, spread them out evenly so the actual load of it is it's not just all at once. That's going to be a little bit of a better situation. All right. So when it comes to that, I think starting with a pretty decently sized breakfast. I mean, I think I don't remember a breakfast I've had the last few weeks that's been less than 1,000 calories total. That makes it easier for later, because then maybe if I do have kind of a smaller lunch, I've still had 1,000 calories, and then now I'm at like 1,800 by noon. And honestly, even running off of around 300 grams of carbs pre-lift minimum is about right for me, where I don't feel like I'm hindered energy-wise or anything like that. But yeah, man, I think having a big breakfast, a reasonable amount of carbs, meal one, is the way to do it. Now, dieting down, very different. Really, I'm a bit more picky with when I eat my carbs for the day when I'm dieting, because I don't want to eat them all at first, right when I wake up, because then what am I supposed to do at night? 99% of cheating on diets happens past 9 p.m., because maybe you get into the groove of it, you're like, all right, I'm dieting, I'm locking in here. You're good all day. I mean, everybody said, well, it's always, I was good today, I can have a treat. I can have a treat tonight, right? Or it's like, okay, all you have to do is go to bed and I'm good. I hit my calorie limit at 6 o'clock and I'm going to bed at midnight, so I haven't eaten anything for 6 hours, but as long as I don't eat any more, I'm good. That doesn't sound like a good situation to me, right? So protein-wise, I want to lean towards same size, 50, maybe 60. I go a little higher on my protein when I'm dieting down. And honestly, just as low fat and low carbs as possible. One of my favorites dieting-wise is chopped salad, like in a bag, right? And then I think about 14 egg whites in a pan, low temp, right? I want them to all, solidify and cook through, but I don't want to burn the bottom of them. So this is usually something I kind of do, and then do the rest of my kind of morning routine while it's finishing up. And then kind of just sprinkle on top whatever kind of chops out, or just like chopped spinach into the eggs, and just put the lid on, let it sit, right? And then once the whole thing's finished, usually just because I like it, not because it's magic or like it's awesome or anything, I'll put 2 slices of, usually I just put 1 slice and rip it in half in the center of like any kind of American cheese, right? Just because it's only about, if you get a low fat slice too, it's like 3 grams of fats, 4 grams of protein, which I usually don't count. I mean, what do you think the quality of the protein from an American cheese slice is? It's not like it's going through insane chemical processes, right? But if you so that's one thing. If you didn't know, the process of actually making cheese like that, it's all they do is add a little bit of you gotta look up a Nile Red video about it. But it's like you're basically taking regular ass cheddar cheese and just with 2 little extra ingredients, like an amalgamizer or some kind of something else. That's what makes it into that kind of texture, right? It's not like it's completely made in a lab. They just there are some additives. But yeah, one of those in the middle, fold it over taco style, and then usually any kind of sugar-free barbecue sauce or things on top. And honestly, the egg whites aren't the most filling. If you're eating 14 egg whites, it's a lot. It's not nothing, but they're kind of it's kind of empty in a way, Like it's not like bread, because bread is going to sit in your stomach and kind of soak up whatever's going on in there. It takes a minute to move around. You might feel like you've got a heavy stomach, but any just straight, really lean protein source, usually you don't feel insanely full afterward, especially the egg whites. So that's where some of the lettuce and the cheese and the sauce comes into play, because it just makes it a little more of a thing. And usually, if I'm bulking up, I'm going to wait for whatever I'm eating to cool down so I can just scarf it, right? Because I want to get that meal in and done. But if I'm dieting, usually I want to sit there and kind of actually blow each bite cool, just so it takes a little bit longer. And it might seem a little bit weird to want to say I want to eat for longer and spend more time just sitting, but it makes it a little more enjoyable, because if you eat it all in 5 seconds, then it's over. And the name of the game, dieting-wise, is fighting against your urge to just go nuts and eat everything in sight. So if while you're eating, instead of just taking big-ass scoops of your oatmeal, you grab the little spoon, take kind of smaller bites, and just kind of, really sit and enjoy it, the better. Because then at least you want to, because it's kind of a situation of the longer you've got food in your mouth, the more enzymes are getting released, and it's like this time situation of actually kind of inducing the action of digestion. Of course, having food in your stomach, it's going to deal with it, but your digestion is going to start in your mouth. So the longer you're sitting there, just kind of like that ice cream taster video guy, where he's really just getting the gist of every bite, the more you're going to feel out of it. So you're kind of tricking yourself, but the more you can do that effectively, the better. And I just think you get a better odds of actually sticking to your diet. So hope I gave you some good intel. Eventually I'll answer some of these crazier questions. Not yet. Some of these are a little too freaking wild. But yeah, keep your ears open, because don't forget, man, we are going to be around for quite a while. So I guess until then, I will see you tomorrow if whatever lift goes down.